If you are a neurodivergent entrepreneur or professional, whether that's ADHD, ASD, OCD, or you don't resonate with any of these labels, you just know that your brain works differently than most people, and you're struggling with being present because you're always in your head about work to the point where it even feels weird to rest, then you're going to want to stay until the end of this video because I'm going to break down the very first step you're going to need to take in order to resolve this. Welcome back to the Neurodivergent Superbrain series, brought to you by the 25-Hour Day. My name is Colin Response. I'm an entrepreneur, an internationally award-winning performing artist, global ambassador for the largest luxury brand in the world, and I did all of this with what most people call ADHD and obsessive compulsive disorder. I disagreed. So I built a business that's helped now over 150 neurodiverse entrepreneurs and professionals rewire their brains for efficiency so that they can execute the vision they have for their business and their careers in half the time and with half the effort than you are putting in right now, ultimately, so that they can add $10,000 to $20,000 a month to their income while enjoying the freedom of their everyday life in the process. And today, I am blessed to have our guest today, Harrison. Harrison is a neurodivergent professional. He's the enrollment director for a $4.8 million coaching company that helps mid to senior level executives upgrade to their new ideal roles. And today, I'm going to show him why he's stuck so that he can be empowered to decide whether he wants to permanently remove this barrier from his life or not. And like usual, I'm going to do it while walking backwards. So let's start this step counter and bring on our fantastic guest, Mr. Harris. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing absolutely fantastic. How about you, Colin?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic now. I love the energy here. So great. Well, I have your submission, so I'm going to pull it up, and I'm just going to have you read it aloud before we dig into it.
So, how can I be better with presence? I feel like I'm always in my head about always needing to hustle and personally feel weird about resting.
Thanks for the honesty. There's a lot more people that feel this way than you would imagine. That's why I'm grateful that you submitted this, because unless you say something about it, you're not likely to resolve it. So the first step that we need to take is we're going to break this apart into 3 key areas: being better with presence, feeling always in your head about needing to hustle, and feeling weird about resting. Now, of course, we need to move things into the affirmative. So we want to do that because we want to make sure that we can have a definition so that we can actually define the result. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to start with the first statement, which is actually framed in the direction it seems you want to go. But how can I be better with presence? So we need to define, what does better mean? Or what does that look like to you?
For me, it's being able to be more in the moment with either who I'm speaking to or what I'm doing. For example, on a sales call, let's say, I'll think more about what question would be best to ask than I do about really just listening to hear what the prospect's problem is, or if there's anything they're telling me that really could be more beneficial for the conversation. And even outside of just sales, just being able to go out my day to day, it could be any task like doing chores or maybe doing workouts, or I'd say more relevant, hanging with friends. And I may not be honestly completely there because I'm in my head thinking about either something going on in the future or something I did in the past.
We can see here, you want to be more in the moment with who you're speaking to or what you're doing. So that clearly is exemplifying where it is that you want to be and what it would mean to be better with presence. You also mentioned that speaking to a prospect, instead of thinking about the question, listening to what the prospect is saying. And was there something else you added there?
mainly to make the conversation more beneficial to them.
Gotcha. And then you said outside of sales, in your day to day,
Yeah, just chores and just hanging with friends, any activity really.
you're finding yourself in your head thinking about the future or thinking about the past. What are you thinking about in the past when you're not in the present?
It's mainly more recently. It's mainly would be just sales. I'm trying to get better at sales day to day, and I'll often think about either maybe a call I had earlier that day that didn't go well, and it's always in my head about what could I have done better, or another case is really about when I can get training in. I'd say most importantly because I always want to be training consistently. And I feel like when I'm with someone, in my head about time, it's like, okay, will I have time to, let's say, do a quick call review later that day or listen to a training from my mentor? Um, or even just feel like I should be doing something to just either leveling up my skills or just getting better as a day-to-day basis. Anything that I could do. And I feel like even when if I'm doing any kind of task, like that's always what's on my mind is like, how am I when am I able to squeeze in time to know that I am training and putting myself, or at least just trying to train to get better for the future.
Yes. So you're thinking about the past, thinking about what you could have done better. And then when you're thinking about the future, what's going on there?
The future is really it's just how I'm going to make things work out because I know that right now I'm trying to build up my income. Right now, finances are somewhat tight, and so I'm thinking to myself, will I be able to pay for this, or how can I bring in some extra money, or what can I do to make sure I'm secure for the future? Um, and I think it's back and forth between making sure I am getting better for the future, make sure I am putting myself in a position where I know I'm going to be able to bring in some consistent income, and also just truthfully some worry about whether or not this is working. Especially if I have a bad day of, let's say I didn't get a sale that day, then in my head I'm like, how can I make up for the money I didn't make today?
Okay. We want to take this and we want to move it to the affirmative so that we can have clarity on the result we're looking for and have that result exist underneath this umbrella rather than this umbrella. For those of you watching this and have no idea what I mean when I say that, you need to watch some of our earlier episodes of the series and you'll know what I mean, but you can still follow along. So now that we've clarified what is going on, I want to know, instead of constantly thinking about the past, at times where you should be present, at times where um, I'm, I don't think it's necessarily a problem to think about what you could have done better, sure, but that doesn't seem to be the problem. The problem seems to be when it's happening, it seems to not be doing what this should be doing, which would be improve things. Let's talk about what is the polarity of that? What is the polarity of being engaged in something, but thinking about something else that you wish you did better?
It's really just being able to stay focused on whatever task or whatever activity or conversation that I'm having without me in my thoughts about whatever comes up. Just like pretty much just out of my head, like not listening to my thoughts, not having thoughts that are like blowing up, or just having my mind, having like a silent mind and just being so focused in this. I like to think I think the best term to describe it is a flow state, where it's
Okay.
like you're not thinking, you're just doing it.
Okay, cool. So for you and everyone watching, if you've been watching these for a while, you might be able to notice you're a little bit new. What you're looking at right now is a reflection of Harrison's cognition. You can see this polarity of the negative and the affirmative that are constantly at odds with each other. And what I mean by that is like in terms of how his language is balanced, he's not completely in this language that's fully in the negative all the time. There's many things he's speaking about in the affirmative. He wants to be better with present. So he wants to be in the moment with who he's speaking to, listening to what the prospect says, what's beneficial to them. Um, and, as he said, silent mind, be in a flow state. And with these things, he seems to be led there eventually. When we think about the thoughts, like you mentioned, thoughts blowing up in his head, thoughts kind of taking over what's going on. Um, a lot of the things are going back and forth. So, what we want to get a lot more clarity on is this aspect of things. So, these are the things we're going to pull out of this. Said, stay focused on the task or activity. He said, being in a silent mind, being in a flow state. These are the spaces that he is looking to occupy. See the language like, stay focused without this thing, without that thing, right? So even when we go to the affirmative, we're going straight back to the negative. I want to be in a flow state without my thoughts exploding. I want to be present with the prospect without thinking about XYZ thing. Every single time we go back to that, we're further imprinting that. What would it look like if it was, I want to be in a flow state while feeling relaxed. I want to be in a flow state while having the thoughts in my mind feel so organized. This is not the present language, but as we go through this process, we're looking to find what is that language, so that for Harrison, he can start to actually imprint that language into his neurology, which is one half. But the other half is for him to actually have clarity on the results he's looking to produce. Most of what's happening is trying to get away from this problem area without having an absolute and clear destination. So imagine being in a labyrinth and somebody's chasing you and you're just trying to run away from the person chasing you, which is very different than your intention to be outside the labyrinth. If you're just trying to get away from the scary person chasing the labyrinth, the exit could be right there, but you'll just turn the corner because turning the corner could get you away from the guy chasing you. And you could be running around in that maze another 45 minutes or 4 days, depending on if this is like Maze Runner or some shit. But the main point is that having a clear destination is going to make a lot of what you do completely different, not just from a decision-making perspective, but even more importantly, for your own brains able to, your brain's own oh my goodness, my brain is shutting down right now. Your brain's ability to perceive information. When you imprint certain language, that language is associated with emotions, and the emotions that it's associated with is what activate when those words are used. If I were to share the name of somebody in your life that, like maybe when you were really young, always picked on you, and I said their name, immediately certain emotions are going to arouse in you, right? Or somebody who brought you a lot of joy. Those emotions are going to arouse in you. In the moment that that happens, your sensory faculties, your eye, your brain, your ears, they are tuned to something different than they were before. And we're not just talking about the spiritual aspect, which you hear me say all the time, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm talking about from a neurological perspective. You literally will hear things that you otherwise won't hear because your brain will delete the information that's not relevant. But it's not determining the information's relevance from whether or not it's harmful to you or helpful. It is deleting information or keeping information based on your brain's understanding of what is important. And it defines importance differently than you do. It doesn't define importance by morality like we do. I like this or I don't like this. I like this, that means it's important. I don't like this, so it's not important. That's not how your brain does things. Your brain bases that based on emotional arousal. If I feel high levels of emotion, this is important. It could be anger, it could be sadness, it could be grief, it could be joy, it could be love, it could be peace, it could be pride, it could be optimism. It's the intensity of the emotion that communicates to your brain the level of importance. And the level of importance determines how much attention your senses are tuned to that information. That's why if you think about the name of the person who maybe didn't give you a good time when you were a kid, maybe picked on you or called you names or did whatever, and you think about that person's name, if you go back in time, your senses feel different. Your senses are on alert. Your senses are like looking out for that thing, whatever it is. It's tuned to the past experiences you've had. So as we get back to the language here, why this is so important is we need to clarify the outcomes we want, because those outcomes are attached to previous experiences that we had, and things like being in a flow state or being in focused or having a silent mind. They are things that have occurred. I doubt any of those things are something you've never experienced. They're just not, you're
Yeah.
just not experiencing them when you want to experience them. But that's not a coincidence. So when we bring clarity to that, then we can start to call upon the state of being that your brain and your senses can actually tune themselves to, so that in a particular environment, it starts to become more familiar with being in a focused state or being in a flow state or being in a joyful state, so that it sees what things may be joyful or what things you could focus on or what things could keep your mind silenced or calm, so that your intended outcome can actually be produced. But if you're thinking about staying away from being with your mind all scattered, your brain is tuned to a scattered mind.
Yeah, I can definitely say it's like it's honestly can be the most frustrating thing sometimes where it's like it's coming to a realization where you're thinking over and over, you're like, what's the answer? What's the solution? Or like, what should I be doing? And it's like the more you think, the worse it gets, honestly.
Yes.
Like that's how it feels for me specifically. So I can definitely relate to what you just said right now.
Yes. The words you just shared are a perfect exemplification of what I mentioned. You said, it seems the more I think, the worse it gets. Because the more you are thinking about that very information, the further you are imprinting that information into your neurology, and the more important you are saying to your brain this is, and you're saying, look for more of it, find more of it, pay attention to more of it, and therefore it finds more of it. So we have to identify the polarity so that we can basically do the same thing, but with different information. The problem is you can never do that if you don't first identify the intended result and clarify it. Most people are focused on the thing they don't want and avoiding that thing, which means to their brain, they're just focused on seeing that thing even more. So as we get back to this, we're going to now pull up a lot of the things you mentioned that speak to where it is you're actually looking to go when it comes to being better with presence. So you said listening to what the prospect says so that conversations are more beneficial to them. You said having a silent mind flow state, being focused on the task or activity at hand. Now, here's the part we want to reframe without your thoughts exploding. What do you want your thoughts to be doing when you're doing this?
I want my thoughts. I guess it's either two things. It's one, I want my thoughts to be silent, to just not be saying anything. If let's say I'm listening to someone or having a conversation, or if let's say I'm working on a task of some kind, I want the thoughts to be something that's I get helping me with the task on hand. Like maybe thinking through a certain issue, but in a I guess an effective way. So for example, like I think one example would be let's say I'm doing a training and I'm struggling with what exactly I'm doing wrong. In my head, my thoughts would be like, why can't I figure this out? Or what happens if I don't end up figuring this out? And then I start future pacing. When really it should just be, okay, wait, so let's think this through real quick. So what am I stuck in? Why am I stuck in this? Okay, what are some potential solutions? I think the word I'm really looking for is having more constructive thoughts towards what I'm working on.
My thoughts are constructive. That statement needs to first be defined before your thoughts can be constructive. They'll never be constructive until, like that, just that brief 30 seconds you took saying, okay, they're helping me. I think about this and that happens. And I think what I want them to be is constructive. Because now your brain thinks of all the other things you've done that have been constructive. There's certain frameworks that your brain uses.
It's funny you mentioned that because like as soon as I said that out loud, a feeling just came up of like what that actually felt like in the past at a certain point. Wow, that was quick. That was like it's really was like as soon as I came together, as soon as constructive came to mind, it was like a light bulb saying, that's it.
Yes. When you say being better with presence, it sounds like you can stay focused on the task or activity at hand while your thoughts are constructive. You're in a flow state, your mind is silent. And it sounds like that's what we are looking for in terms of being better with presence. But you see how vague this is? It's like, kind of, what does it mean to be better with this? By whose definition? You have to have your definition. Better with presence for somebody could simply mean that each morning when they close their eyes to meditate, they're able to sit there in stillness for 45 minutes despite sounds of construction outside the window. For somebody else, it could mean that when they're on the field playing rugby, that they're never intimidated by the other team. In fact, they just remain in a state of calmness and objectivity. For somebody else, it could mean just having more fun with their daughter whose name is Presence. You know what I mean? Like it could literally, it can mean anything for anyone. We have to have a clear definition or else it's too ambiguous. So now we've clarified this aspect of things. It's time for us to move into some of the other things that we wanted to address about your finances, how you can bring in extra money, like constructive thoughts about the future and your income. What would be the opposite of worry?
Certainty.
Certainty.
Or
Okay. Certainty. And then again, how can I make up for the money I didn't make today? What would be the opposite of that?
how can I make up for the money I didn't make today? The opposite of that.
You might have to break this one down into two pieces. So what would be the opposite of feeling you need to make up for something?
To make up, I'd say, that's actually a good question. You don't need to make up for anything. Or uh, maybe there's, yeah, I think the only thing that's coming to my mind is that there's nothing to be made up at all. It's like, maybe it's like, I don't know if acceptance is the right word to that. I don't know. I'm actually having trouble figuring out what the opposite of making up for something is. Like the first thing that comes to mind is like there's nothing to get made up. It's like you're good.
Perfect. So we're at the sweet spot. This is what we're looking for. The sweet spot is the place I refer to when somebody reaches a place where they don't have language for the actual result they want, which is the reason why they're never experiencing it.
That oh yeah, wait, that it's just like a light bulb moment just went off, but at the same time I know that's what I'm trying to find. Like that's what I'm trying to find the answer to, but it's like, oh my God, wait, I don't know the actual answer to that then. Oof, okay. Well,
Mind you, that's okay. That's literally why we're here, is for you to have this awareness. People who are watching this, if you've seen some of the other episodes and something comes to your mind, I want you to type in the comments, what do you think a polarity to making up for something could be? Because I mention this so often, if in a controlled environment like this, where we are able to pause time and think about the circumstance, it's taking us more than 60 seconds, even 3, 5 minutes for us to actually figure out what is it that I'm looking for. What probability do you think you're going to be able to produce that result in the midst of the actual thing happening? You're in this context where all these emotions are going all over the place and blah, 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 blah. And you're trying to get to this thing and you think you're going to then be able to pull that out. That's not going to happen.
I'm simultaneously trying to think of what that answer would be, but also getting absolutely blown by how you just described that because it just explained that so perfectly. it's almost like that's pretty much like like the hidden answer to like what I've been struggling with. Okay, I'm trying to deconstruct it. Okay, so if I'm making up for something, that usually means there was a lack of some time, or there was something missing, or that I did, or maybe that I didn't achieve. Like, okay, I didn't do this, so how can I make up for it? Or yeah, so I'd say that's a big thing. So it's the opposite of not getting an outcome and feeling like you need to, I guess, still get the outcome.
You're on the right track now. You're identifying that not having those things is not the opposite of those things. Like before
Yeah,
earlier,
it's
you were like, I don't have to feel like needing to make up for stuff. That's not the opposite of feeling like you need to make up for something. That's like, I'm always late. How do I not be late? I was like, well, then I'm not late. No, the opposite of being late is being early.
the word accept came to mind, but I don't think it's accept.
That's okay. Are you
Or
interested in having some examples that might help jog your thoughts to see what words are resonant?
honestly, yeah, because I feel stumped right now.
That's okay. Also, you should know that it doesn't necessitate you breaking your brain. What really matters is that it's clarified. Sometimes on these episodes, people literally pull up Google, like, wait a second, what's the opposite of this? And then they're like, holy shit, what? Because of how disassociated it was. And it's not so much about the merit that you get for being like, I discovered it as much as it is uncovering it. So if we share some words and there's certain things that come up for you and you're like, ah, that's actually resonant with the feeling, or that's resonant with the feeling, that's actually the thing that matters is that we identify what it is. So here are a couple examples of what that could look like. If you define making up for something as you didn't get something that you needed to get, all those words that you said, I would just take them step by step. How can I make up for it? So I would just say, didn't get something I wanted to get. And so I just look at the opposite. It's like, well, I did get something. And you're thinking of, well, how do you make up for it? You wouldn't try to make up for something you got. You'd have to be reflecting on the fact that you got it. So what would the reflection be about the thing you got? Well, my brain goes to, I would be grateful for the thing I got. Or instead of making up for the things I didn't do, I would be reflecting on the things that I did do that got me what I liked.
The word that's coming to mind for me is it's more relief than anything. Because it's like, all right, whew, I got it. So we're good now. I mean, I was thinking, I know for the sense of money specifically, because if I'm in a financial pickle, then I feel that pressure. And when I make money, well, actually, now that I said to myself, like, when I make money, I'm grateful. I'm glad. Like, I'm excited. I'm like, great, it just came in.
These are words that are reflective of the polarity. Relief, you were on your way there, but relief implies that you are in a state of tension from some sort of dis-ease. You don't get relief
Mm,
from being, I'm so relieved that I'm no longer excited and grateful and happy about everything that's going on. No,
mm.
you don't get relief from having something. You get relief from escaping something.
Yeah, that's very true. I guess for me, it was more like the financial pressure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
grateful and honestly, the word that comes to mind is just happy. Like I'm happy I got this. I'm happy and excited, and grateful. The opposite of that is actually making money.
I'm excited, grateful, and happy for the money that I did make today.
Right. Yes.
What we were explaining here, I'm focused on what task or activity I'm presently doing, and my thoughts are constructive. I'm in a flow state. That is this.
Yeah.
And then feel weird about resting. So this is the one thing we haven't addressed yet. So what is the polarity of that?
The opposite. I think the opposite of weird is feel like, yeah, I just feel normal without resting. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna rest right now. That's it. Or maybe you're just being okay without resting. Because I think when I say I feel weird about resting, it's out of a sense of I should be doing more right now. I should be training. I should just be doing something. Maybe I should be like listening to something right now. Maybe maybe I should be watching a show while I'm lying down. It's sort of like it's sort of like having a constant stimulation instead of just like sitting down and doing absolutely nothing. Like not listening to anything, not um reading anything, not watching anything. It's like genuine rest is like just in my eyes, it's doing absolutely nothing and just being okay with that. Or it could just be times where I'm like, okay, even if I did get something good done today, it's like, okay, maybe I can like watch YouTube or something. Maybe it's just not feeling guilty about it.
Okay. What's the opposite of feeling guilty?
Well, not feeling guilty, just feeling like it's okay to do it.
Is the opposite of guilty okay?
Feeling like, what's the opposite of guilty? I might need to use Google real quick. What's the opposite of guilty? I can't believe I can't even think about this. I'm guilty because I feel bad. I feel bad about doing something.
So what's the opposite about bad?
Feeling good about something.
Okay. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be the polarity. The difference between I feel weird about resting is not I feel normal about resting. The reason why you're caught in this loop is because you've confused polarity for the erasure of something. You're like, I feel weird about this thing. I want to not feel weird about it, or I want to feel normal. But you're not actually looking at the polarity. The opposite of feeling weird about something is I feel good about it. I feel certain about it. I feel confident. If you look at it on the other side, that would be like saying, what's the opposite of feeling confident to walk up to this attractive woman? Would sound bizarre if I say, okay, well, the opposite of feeling confident would be feeling nothing. It would just be feeling normal. That's not the opposite of feeling confident.
Yeah.
You would say, oh, the person seems nervous, or the person seems anxious, or the person seems creepy, or the person seems weird. When we look at these things in the affirmative, it's a lot clearer for us not to confuse neutrality or the erasure of it as its polarity. But when we're on the other side, because we're so used to it and we don't have the language, we confuse ourselves into thinking that, oh, I feel so distracted. I'd like to stop feeling distracted. If I could just be not distracted, then everything would be spot on. But actually, no, you're looking to be focused, like you said earlier. And areas where we can't find the language are reflective of the areas where you cannot imprint the language, which means you're not arousing the emotions associated with that sensory experience, which means your brain's not looking for the things that would allow you to feel confident about those things, which means your brain's not looking for, what would I need to do in order to feel confident about these things? Because confidence isn't even in the stratosphere of your consciousness when you interface with those experiences. But confidence is in the stratosphere of your consciousness because there are things you feel confident about. So it's not that you can't access confidence. It's your brain doesn't know that it should be accessing confidence and practicing and developing confidence in those conditions. And instead, it's practicing and reinforcing these destructive thought processes and patterns in those conditions. And that's why it gets harder and it gets worse. Now, it's not an overnight thing. I'm just saying that that's the reason why it's not getting better and it's progressively getting more challenging.
As you're explaining that, I'm already just trying to ask some of those questions in my head about like, how can how can I be more excited and glad and grateful and happy about the money I did make today? While I didn't actually make money today yet, it feels more expansive. Even though there's no questions or answers like coming to my mind right now, it's like, oh, okay, like how can I be excited about how I make money today?
Because your brain's thinking about the result that you actually want emotionally. It's accessing the emotions that you enjoy more and are higher frequency emotions, are going to put you in a state where you have dexterity in your own consciousness to make more effective decisions. Even if you didn't make money today, you would be in a better cognitive position to make decisions that would make you money from this state of being than you would be from the alternative state of being. Somebody could say like, oh, but I didn't actually make money today. That's okay. So do you think you'd be more productive if you did make money today, but you were down on yourself and feeling guilty? How effective do you think your thought process would be? Even though you did make money, your state of mind
Yeah, no.
is what's going to produce the outcome.
This is awesome.
All right, so let's get to it. How do we feel about resting?
Yeah, I feel good about resting. In fact, I should be resting right now because that is going to be much more productive for me.
Yes. So you see how you can't do nothing. Something's always happening. If you decide I'm not going to be this, your brain can't comprehend not being that thing because in the universe, there's no absence. Something is taking its place. So you would need to say that I am doing this. So every time you try to compare, I don't want to feel weird resting. Well, you haven't really given it an alternative versus right now, you're like, I want to feel like I should be resting. And the moment you say that, you can actually start considering what it would mean to feel good about resting and how that would compare against feeling weird about resting, and actually start to look at both of those realities versus looking at one reality and then trying to like erase reality and envision nothingness when you can't. You can't actually do that. And so your brain is just like, okay, well, we're still thinking about this thing then.
It kind of reminds me of when I was quitting nicotine. I think it's like it's what I've always heard is the hardest thing about it, because when you quit in the beginning, it's like, what do you replace it with? You're quitting nicotine with nothing, but since you have nothing, then you're just like, oh, I want that hit again. But what else is going to give you that hit? You know?
In fact, all people who quit using nicotine, it's not that they're like, I'm going to stop using nicotine. It's, I'm doing this instead. And it may not even be an action. It might be, I am prioritizing my new daughter instead. I am deciding that I want to look and feel more healthy instead. Even if it's just like, I'm going to go to the convenience store and I'm going to buy a fucking pack of Oreo cookies instead. What is happening instead is less relevant than the fact that something must take its place. There can be no absence of anything. I've had clients who were addicted to cigarettes who stopped smoking because this is a neurological thing. In the absence of anything, there is something. And if you don't choose what's there, what will take its place is what has always taken its place, because your brain is going to go into its usual programming and do what it's meant to do, which is fill the gaps where you're not using your conscious mind, and your subconscious mind is going to fill the gaps with what you already told it you want it to do based on your previous behaviors and all the emotional imprinting that you've made from those behaviors. Whether good or bad is not relevant. It's just the intensity in which it's happened.
20 minutes later.
When I'm with my friends at work, exercising, or doing chores, I'm focused on whatever task or activity is at hand. I'm in flow state, and my thoughts are constructive and effective. I'm excited, and I'm happy and grateful for what money I did make today. I have certainty around my finances, around the consistency of my income, and security of my future. It is easy for me to listen to what each prospect says so that conversations are more beneficial to them. And I feel good about resting. And I feel like I should be resting because it will provide the biggest return on investment for my time and energy. I gotta say, I feel like there were so many layers to it. And every time that we actually dug through each layer, it just gives me more and more clarity in terms of what I'm actually looking for. And I think just made me realize too that that was really what was missing about why I was, so much in my head. Because at the end of the day, like, while I knew what I wanted to fix, I didn't know what the actual outcome of that fix really was going to be. And so it just felt, honestly, I feel like it's more just the fact that I felt lost than anything. It's like, how do I do this? How do I do that? But what outcome am I trying to get to? And having that clarity and just having that feeling too about what that feels like, that just gives me a lot more clarity around what I should be aiming to feel at this moment. Because even going through this, just repeating that back out, even when we were just dissecting this too, I started to feel more clear in my head. I felt a lot less pressure. Even if it wasn't like an answer that came to mind, the state that I was in just felt a lot better. Especially now that I'm reading phase 2 compared to phase 1. Because phase 1, I was just like, I don't even want to read that. I don't even want to read that again.
Thanks for sharing that, Harrison. This is for everyone watching us. I don't want anyone to be under some sort of illusion that because we reframed this, now all of Harrison's challenges have been dissolved. That's not the reality here. The reality here is his problems were impossible to solve until this step happened. The point of this series is not to wave this magic wand in 45 minutes and then your brain is rewired and then you have a full strategy. That's not a 45-minute process. That's what the entire 25-hour day is all about. But it doesn't matter where you go. It could be a 25-hour day. It could be the fucking 24-hour day. It doesn't really matter. You're still not going to be able to resolve anything if you do not have clarity on what you actually are looking to achieve. When we look at the things that Harrison has listed here, when I'm with my friends, work, exercising, or things like I'm excited, I'm happy, I'm grateful for the money I did make, these are statements. The reality is now there's an actual ability for his consciousness to expand to solutions. What would need to happen in order for me to be focused on my friends when I am with them specifically? And there could be a variety of answers to doing that. Understanding the things that are most important to your friends. It could have to do with the certain environments you're in when you're with your friends. It could have to do with which friends you're with. What am I deciding to do when I'm exercising? How am I exercising? Am I doing yoga? Am I going to the gym? Am I walking? Am I doing sports? When I'm doing chores, how focused am I on the task at hand? Am I listening to stuff that I enjoy or listening to music while I'm doing all of these things? What would I need to do so that the conversation is most beneficial? Maybe you've never actually considered what is beneficial to that person. All of these things are only possible because they are living underneath this umbrella. I can promise you, you still need to be able to answer these questions. If you can, then boom, you're golden. But if you can't, the problem may not be what you think it is. Most neurodiverse entrepreneurs and professionals have spent thousands of hours, thousands of dollars, countless amounts of energy to resolve the symptoms to a problem they don't even realize is the core issue. The problem is not you. The problem is you've been trying to solve the wrong problem. You haven't learned how to leverage the way that the neurodivergent brain naturally works. And if you don't, you will continue to go in circles trying to cram yourself into the way that the typical person's brain works, trying to fix things in the way that typical people's brains work. You do not have a typical brain, so you cannot use typical solutions. You have to use solutions that are actually designed for the way that your brain works. So if you want to cut the time and the effort that you're spending in half, you want to add an extra 10, an extra $20,000 to your monthly income so that you can have the time, you can have the energy, you can have the freedom to live your life in the capacity that you actually want to. Click the link that is in the description of this video because you're going to be able to see what type of impact you can actually have in your life when those problems are solved. Or you can just keep spending time on YouTube. The decision is yours. Till then, thank you to our guest, Harrison, for all his honesty. Thanks, Harrison.
Appreciate you, Colin. Thank you.
See you next time.
Oh my God. Wow, that opened my eyes.